Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is JoJo, and this video is about JoJo. I'm going to talk about the Queen as well. This idea of schism, I've talked about this being the year of the schism, not only in terms of division between people, division between the left and the right, the Democrats and the Republicans, and then all these other societal divisions, but also the division between the brand and the truth, right? Because we have branding, the branding they've given JoJo, the branding they give themselves as media people, the people that control the system, but everybody else, people are branding themselves on social media. And then there's the truth of who you really are, right? And then the deeper truth of who you are spiritually. But let's get started here with JoJo.
Because the best thing we can do to fight back against these variants, we have to beat this virus.
So this is JoJo showing himself as being confused. I'm not sure when this is from. It's fairly recent. A couple days ago, this happened. We saw this. JoJo stumbled multiple times boarding Air Force One, and he gets up there and he, gives a big salute like he just rocked it. And so there's been a number of gaffes. He said he had different gaffes in the interview with George Stephanopoulos, and everything's starting to leak out. And he's very easily mocked, right? This is a great imitation of JoJo.
Look, I got a surprise for you. Your name isn't Barack Biden. It's Barack O'Jiden. Who sent you? Vice Pina Colada Hairless?
This is the YouTube channel Kyle Doonigan. Quite fun. He does a good job. He's got Andrew Cuomo's here. There's a variety of different, maybe I'll do a separate video about this and compare it to Saturday Night Live. But this is, a person with a small crew and some deep fake type of technology. It's got a bunch of, this is Joe Biden debates Ben Shapiro. All these are very funny. And they're like a minute long. And, Joe Biden is such an easy target because he's confused. Let me show you. I have a compilation of just some of his 2019 gaffes when he was running for president. And then there are so many afterwards. So many have happened recently. Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is a compilation of some of the gaffes, things that JoJo has said. Just a few of them. I don't think I have all of them. But just some of the gaffes that I've covered. And I know there's things I don't know about. And there's future gaffes. But as of December 2019, these are JoJo's gaffes.
We got to recognize that kid wearing a hoodie may very well be the next poet laureate and not a gangbanger. Ladies and gentlemen, there are too many black men, and I might add women, in prison. Stay in fact, anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry.
I was ready to prostitute myself. And
if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. We choose truth over facts. A big portion of it called Crimea. Right. He's saying that it was President, my boss, it was his fault.
It's President, my boss, is his fault.
Do not pin it on me, sir. Please, sir. Do not.
Look, why should voters give you another chance?
Because it got done before.
Oh, no. It's your professionalism that I respect.
Because it got done before. I'm the only one up here who's ever beat the NRA. They have every problem coming to them. We have to make sure that every single child does, in fact, have 3, 4, and 5-year-olds go to school, not daycare, school. We bring social workers into homes and parents to help them deal with how to raise their children. Play the radio, make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone, make sure the kids hear words. A kid coming from a very poor school, or a very poor background, hear 4 million words fewer spoken by the time they get there. There's so much, I'm going to go like the rest of them do, twice over. And by the way, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. Increasing exponentially. Top 1.
Exponentially.
2% have done exponentially better. The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point is...
that's not true. The other one is here.
I said the first. I said the first.
You didn't say the first. Let's go back. You said the only. He said, I said the first. I said the first. Look at Kamala Harris getting a big belly laugh here.
African-American elected. Come first. African-American. So my point is we want to pick.
But the biggest one is he forgot or tried to lie about something that he said literally seconds earlier, right? He says only, and he goes back and tries to change history right there. And says, no, I said first. I said first, not only.
Caucus, the only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate.
He just said only. It was only. We heard it, Joe.
A whole range of people.
No,
my point is...
that's not true. The other one is here.
Look at his confused look.
I said the first.
He literally just said only. And he got a confused look on his face like, oh. And then he tried to rearrange reality. And change it, what he said, from only to first. I mean, it's just right there. Like, he's confused. Watch his confused face here.
The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point is...
that's not true.
True,
The
Joe.
other one is here.
I said the first. I said the first African-American elected.
Corn pop.
We're allowed to... There was a 3-meter board. And you fell off sideways, you landed on the darn cement over there.
He's so funny.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
And he ran with a bunch of bad boys. All right, remember Corn Pop. This guy's the phenom, right? He's the phenom of gaffes, inappropriate behaviors, all of it. And I didn't even get into his no malarkey tour, right? Because that's a part of it. He has a no malarkey tour going on. And so, well, I guess that's here. And so you have this no malarkey guy, and he's kind of full of malarkey, right? So again, that's just a partial example of the gaffes available in 2019. Then I did some follow-up thing in 2020. I mean, it's more. There's actually more and more of these things, and now there's more, even more with him being president. So then this happened. Putin challenges Biden to a debate after president calls him a killer, and this was a big, this is a big story. Keeler tackles Putin's debate challenge to Biden, and then they go through this various news articles about this. Biden is too busy to even respond to this, but there's a big problem here. Putin openly mocking Biden with humiliating debate challenge. Of course, this is being covered by the right because Biden is an absolute joke, right? And this is a problem when you have a president like this, a president who, again, was supposed to be a real president as opposed to Donald Trump. I'll get into that in just a moment. So this is Breonna Keeler from CNN giving JoJo cover. So CNN and MSNBC do this all the time. The debate challenge from Putin made JoJo look bad. JoJo's already having a bad week, and so JoJo not being able to accept this debate challenge made JoJo, this was not a good look for JoJo. So CNN comes in to defend him, and this is how they did it.
In an attempt to settle their drama, Vladimir Putin is challenging President Biden to a live debate.
We must continue our relationship. Moreover, I just thought about this. Last time the initiative of the telephone conversation came from President Biden. I want to invite Biden to continue this discussion, but on condition that we do it live, online, without any delay, in an open, direct discussion. I think it would be interesting.
He's smiling the whole time because he knows JoJo's incompetent. Like everybody knows, JoJo isn't up to being president. Again, the schism between the brand and what JoJo really is. And so Breonna Keeler, in this 6 minute and 51 second, like, defending and giving JoJo cover, tries to make this all normal.
Now, this is hardly the first time in history that a dispute has resulted in this kind of invitation. Most of the bluster, not surprisingly, involves politics. In 1964, Lyndon Johnson turned down all requests to face the Republican candidate Barry Goldwater in a debate.
So she's making it normal to not go and debate somebody. And so she goes through various stories here.
And he still won. Democratic candidate MJ Hagar challenged incumbent Texas Senator John Cornyn to 3 televised debates.
And so again, this is 7 minutes long, almost 7 minutes long. It's all about all these times in history someone chose not to debate somebody else, right? Just so you know, there's historical precedent for JoJo backing out of this debate.
Duels, including Mitt Romney during the primaries.
I'll meet him anywhere in Iowa for 90 minutes, just the two of us, in a debate, with a timekeeper and no moderator.
On the debate, anytime, any place, you name it, and I'll do it.
Debate between me and Donald, mano a mano.
I invite her to go to Cambridge and debate her policies.
Discuss the issues with you. I'm willing to offer $10,000 to your campaign.
Requests from men with bad intentions. Sometimes the challenge is not one for the stage. Duels, they're not just for the olden days when Alexander Hamilton learned the hard way.
They're both like
Biden said no comment, but his campaign couldn't resist the setup, saying if the president thinks his best case is made in urine, he can have at it. And we'd expect nothing less from Donald Trump, who pissed away the chance to protect the lives of 200,000 Americans, now more than.
Notice how this becomes crapping all over Trump, right? It always ends up here with CNN. Like, Trump is gone, but they're still saying, you know, JoJo is better. And they showed a number of times that Trump chose not to debate somebody. And then they had this one where Trump wanted JoJo to take a urine test before the debate to see if he was on drugs to make him more coherent. And, you know, it always comes down to them finding a way to crap on Trump, right? This is Biden backing out of a debate with Putin, and somehow Trump sucks, right? This is the wonderment of CNN.
Than that, obviously, when he didn't make a plan to stop COVID-19. It stands to wonder, which is the original reason why we're talking about this, why Vladimir Putin, who loves to embrace his strongman image, challenged President Biden to a debate in the first place, because almost always, as you can see, the challenger is coming from a position of weakness.
There's two things here. The first is this is nothing like any of those things, because this is one leader, a president, and these are, you know, the two of the most powerful militaries in the world that have had issues for over 60, 70 years, have been basically enemies. And one of these leaders, a new president, just said that the other guy's a killer and he has no soul, right? That's as bad as it gets, right? Saying that someone has no soul is as bad as it gets. So the other guy comes out and says, and again, I'm not a Putin fan, and I'm not endorsing Putin. I'm not saying anything good about Putin. As far as I know from people I know in Russia and the Ukraine through heartfulness meditation, I met a lot of these people at the ashram, right? People from all over the world. And they don't like Putin or the government there. They're not happy with their government, like most people. So, you know, Putin isn't to me a good leader, but he is a better leader for his people because he's at least mentally competent, right? And in this case, when you bring something up, like you call somebody else a killer and say that person has no soul, and you've been a lifelong politician for a country that spends more money than anybody on military and has done bad things all over the world that you've approved of, and you're vice president for a president that drones people, including kids and innocent people, and you're vice president under these illegal and immoral wars, at least the moral wars in Libya and the Arab Spring wars and things, and that you were supportive of George Bush's wars as well, you can't call other people killers, right? Like the hypocrisy here. And so Putin knows that, And Putin knows as bad as he might be in the debate, Joe Biden's going to be worse because Joe Biden is mentally incompetent. And so the other piece is that one of the big complaints, the biggest complaint of the mainstream media and the celebrity culture and other politicians and the establishment, the political establishment, was that Trump wasn't presidential, which is true. Trump never acted presidential. But JoJo is even worse, and he's a lifelong career politician. And Breonna Keeler, who's defending JoJo, she's crapping on Trump again, which is what they always do, and she's defending him and saying that, he shouldn't even respond to Putin's challenge. It's a ridiculous challenge. She knew this because back in 2015, February 2015, she did a hit piece, Biden's presidential candidacy question after his gaffes.
And South Carolina. But Biden's latest gaffes are stealing the spotlight away from speculation about his presidential aspirations.
For their trust.
Like his strange hold on Defense Secretary Ash Carter's wife, Stephanie.
So first she got the groping, right? Now this is a guy who had a bigger groping problem than Andrew Cuomo. He did it over and over again with kids and women, and very handsy and inappropriate, and just something that should have disqualified him from running for president. I said this before. Everything that Trump had, Joe Biden had worse. Everything they were going to attack Trump on, Joe Biden had worse. And Breonna Keeler knew this in 2015. She did this hit piece on him because she wanted Hillary. They all wanted Hillary, and they didn't want JoJo to run. I've covered this before.
Claim about Somali immigrants in his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware.
It's a large, very identifiable Somali community. There's an awful lot who are driving cabs, and are friends of mine, for real. I'm not being solicitous. I'm being serious.
And it turns out factually incorrect. Only
15 Somalis in the whole state of Delaware, she's going to go on to say. So she got the lying part, right? That he was a liar, because in previous presidential campaigns, JoJo literally took people's speeches and he changed facts about his own family to fit into these speeches he plagiarized. He got caught. These were scandals. Everybody knew about it. He was caught over and over again lying. So they have that. They got the groper. They got the sniffler, snoozler groper. They got the, stuff about lying to being a liar, right?
only 15 Somalis live in the entire state, according to the Census Bureau. And Wilmington cab drivers told CNN they knew of no Somalis driving taxis.
No one is asked to respond to every time Joe Biden says something, and he says something every day that people should be responding to.
Marco Rubio, who is considering a run for president, and other Republicans are incensed. And on late night TV.
So she got the fact that they could use this, the other party could use his gaffes against him, so he wasn't somebody who could win. Another, he's a potential loser because he's got all these negatives against him.
Biden has become a punchline.
Ever heard of a second lady?
The missteps are nothing new. Over the years, Biden's become known for them.
He's a gaffe magnet. She goes on here, right? This is something that she knew, like she, and all these people knew. And there's a hit piece against him.
He's taken criticism for some, like this one, talking to a largely African-American audience about Mitt Romney in 2012.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
Racially insensitive comments, which he has continuously done. Things that, make you scratch your head, shaking your head, scratching your head. Both of them.
But often his handsiness and comments
No dates to your 30.
are likened to those of a crazy but lovable uncle. But as they veer toward the more bizarre variety, it's raising questions about appropriate behavior for someone eyeing the White House. And
because they want Hillary, right? This is in 2016. They want Hillary, but they had it all. They knew about all these things, that this guy was unfit to be president. She put it out there. They knew it at CNN. They said, this guy's unfit to be president. That's what they were reporting. If you're a reporter or you're a journalist, you're supposed to serve the truth. It doesn't matter if you're a spiritual person, a godly person or a heathen or a bad person even. Your job is to serve the truth, is bring the truth into light. And so certainly in the past, not so much now with the internet, normal people, everyday people, didn't have access to either information or the politicians, the leaders of the country or the corporations, and they didn't have a platform or a voice to bring the truth to light. And so journalism, you know, what it used to be, at least what it used to supposed to be, was something where they would go and be an element of check and balance where people who were doing bad things with power, the people in power doing bad things, would be held accountable by the papers, by the journalists. And so this was, you know, this used to exist at least partially, but now it doesn't. The people who are in power own all of these various mainstream news publications. And so one of the things that they should have done, and they could have done because they know it, it was out there for anybody to do, was that JoJo was unfit to be president. And CNN knew this and put a hit piece out when it suited them because they've never served the truth, right? They only serve their masters, whether it's the intelligence community or it's the, you know, the billionaire and trillionaires club or whatever groups of people that handle and control them. Breonna Keeler isn't a truth teller, and neither is any of the CNN employees, because they all share the same talking points and they all colluded to hide JoJo away. So again, this is the schism, the difference between what JoJo really is and the brand that they created and the illusion they created so that he could beat Donald Trump. They hid him away for 2 years, basically, as a candidate. They protected him. They gave him cover. They never challenged any of these stories. They never brought any of these stories to light. And you have a guy who, back in 2015, CNN said he was unfit to be president, and he has continuously mentally broken down since then, and they hid him away. But now they're bringing him out to the light. He has to come out and be president, and you can see he's unfit for it. He is, you know, stumbling around. He can't walk upstairs. He can't, you know, complete whole sentences. He can't keep his thoughts together. He's somebody who's mentally incompetent, showing signs of dementia now, worsening over the past 2 years. And even at his best, at his prime, he polled at 1%. Like I showed you this before. He ran for president 3 times before this, and he got booted because of a scandal, and people didn't like him or identify with him and realized he was, you know, a liar and a groper and a bad dude, right? He wasn't any of these things that you need to be president. And so now CNN has a problem. They have huge problems because they covered for him. They're not, you know, being legitimate truth tellers. And so they can either be exposed by not covering him, or they can cover him and expose that they knew all these things. And they should have brought this to everyone's attention because they should have prevented him from ever becoming president because he couldn't do the job. He's not presidential material. Certainly even in his prime, he wasn't presidential material, but now even more so. And so they're being exposed as liars. Again, the schism between them pretending to be truth tellers and what they really are, which brings us to the Queen. See, one of the things about politicians and even the royal family and celebrities, they try to make them like you. Oh, they're just like you. They're just like me, right? They have this idea that people who are in the controlling aspect of the system, and then celebrities, politicians, athletes, they're just like you. But the reason everybody wants to be like them is because they have a set of privileges that are better, right? That are better than what you have. They have more privileges and they have more of everything than everybody else. And again, this schism between the way the media is supposed to be, the way things are supposed to reflect reality, and the way that the media conducts itself, is that they didn't give equal treatment to, say, Joe Biden and his groping and snoozling, and now Andrew Cuomo's. Like they didn't give equal treatment to Trump and Andrew Cuomo's with the COVID, right? They used to love Trump. The media used to love Trump before The Apprentice show and then during The Apprentice show. But then when he became a politician, they turned. And they treat him differently. They give somebody the bad guy narrative. Like in a reality TV show, they can edit and splice their footage to make somebody look like a hero or make them look like a villain based on what footage they choose to show you, right? Andrew Cuomo, they knew about the guy being a not likable bully, right? They knew all these things, but they made him into a hero, and then they decide, oh, we're going to change the script, we're going to flip the script and turn him into a groper and a villain because now Trump is a president and Biden needs cover. But Biden did even worse things on camera, worse groping and things like this, and many more worse things that they are choosing not to cover. But in 2015, when they preferred Hillary, they chose Hillary. And it's the same thing for the royal family, who they've tried over and over again to humanize them. But in this show, The Crown, which is, again, an excellent show, I was surprised at how good it is, they even hint at some truther things. I'm going to go through it. There's a bunch of telling scenes I have here that are going to help understand this narrative.
Well, he's retired for one thing.
Then go and see him in an unofficial capacity for sherry or tea or human blood, whatever that monster drinks.
What is this blood drinking you speak of? There's many people who think the royal family drink blood, and Queen Elizabeth has come out and admitted that the royal family used to be cannibals. They used to eat people for medicinal purposes, but they stopped 300 years ago. And of course, Vlad the Impaler, who is Count Dracula, right? Vlad the Impaler is actually Count Dracula, is that from Transylvania or whatever it is, Romania, I think, is a relative, an ancestor of the royal family, and Prince Charles saved their house, saved his castle. He went and saved Dracula's castle. So they have blood drinkers and cannibals in their line, and many people still think they are. And they're referring to, and her husband, who just had this ghoulish picture I'll show later in this video, talk about him a little bit. But her uncle, who was King Edward, who was her father's brother, her father succeeded him because he had to abdicate the throne because they said he was, he was marrying this woman, Wallis Simpson, who the firm didn't approve of, the people surrounding the crown didn't approve of, and so he had to abdicate his crown. But it turned out from the show, this is what this episode was about, that the guy was a Nazi. That not only was he a Nazi, but her husband's family were Nazis. Her husband's dad and other people in the family were Nazis. But apparently this guy met with Hitler and then was trying to retake the throne. He was trying to help Hitler defeat England. And when Hitler gained control of England, he was going to put King Edward back on the throne of England. And he gave information like the bombing was working, so keep on bombing. I mean, this is what came out in the show. And they have these pictures with Hitler and his wife, who was also, I guess, a spy for the Nazis and all these things, with high-ranking Nazi officials and Hitler. And so that's their family. Her uncle was so desperate to become king again, he made a deal with Hitler and the Nazis and was trying to destroy his brother and their family. I mean, this is the family they come from. Nazis, vampires, and cannibals. This is the royal family, and this is all factual stuff.
Oh.
A collection of the people you most hate in life. Well, we all got together.
In a reptile cage.
So after saying that there was some blood drinkers, then there was, I guess this is Princess Anne, the daughter of the Queen, and she calls them reptiles or reptilians, if you will.
It all sounds hideous.
Yes. I thought that's what you'd say.
But if you and the other reptiles insist.
Well, they do. They do insist.
Royal Highness?
Martin?
I never see the other one anymore. Sir? Where's the other one? The bald one.
This is actually really hilarious. So this guy is the Queen's personal secretary. And she replaced a bald guy who was her personal secretary, I'm guessing, for about 15 years. He's instrumental to the show. He's one of her handlers. these secretaries are meeting with the Queen all the time, and her husband here, Prince Philip, is there and he's a part of it. And they're known entities. They're established characters in the show, right? Because they have to tell the Queen sometimes, oh, you can't do this. I mean, they deliver information. They talk about protocol. They're very important, and they're a big part of the royal family's life. And this guy didn't even know the last guy's name, which is, if you watch the show, it's hilarious because he totally should, right? It's like going to school for a year and not knowing your teacher's name, or 15 years.
Colonel Dean, he's retired, sir.
Has he?
3 months ago. You gave him a clock.
Did I?
It shows you just how clueless. I mean, I don't know if this happened or just part of the show, but it could happen. Like, they're so oblivious, and they're so like these people coming out of the room. If you've seen any of these shows, Downton Abbey, any of these things to do with the royal establishment or the really wealthy people, and they have, people dressing them, and they have their own personal valets and all these things, right? And, nannies, I mean, just all these cooks and chefs and people serving them and butlers and all these things. And they're, to some extent, they don't even exist. Like, these guys are always saying, get out, right? Their staff will come in and serve them breakfast, and they'll be like, get out. Like, because it's kind of invasive to have all these people in their lives, but they can't live without it, right? Because they're not living like, normal human beings. And then I'm just going to show you this one piece, but there's a lot of these where there's just all this symbolism. Here it's this red rose. They're at this mausoleum. I think it's after her husband's uncle was murdered by the IRA, the Irish Republican, Army, I guess. And there's just all this cryptic red symbolism and all these things. I'll get into more of this when I talk about the Freemasonic aspect of the royal family. But it's very telling. Like, it's very prevalent, all of their rituals and all of their, the hidden meaning behind their symbols and the pomp and circumstance and all these things.
Sir, the protocol is as follows. When you're announced, you bow from the neck. First time you see the Queen, you say Your Majesty. After that, it's ma'am. Rhymes with ham until you leave. Then it's Your Majesty again.
So this is the new prime minister, and he's being told how you treat the Queen in a way where you're bowing before her and you're submitting to the throne and the crown and the royal family. It's messed up because this applies to us as well, all around the world. The Queen is like the queen of the world. So let's watch the end of this, and I'll show you Kennedy.
Don't sit until Her Majesty does. Don't talk until she does. Absolutely no physical contact other than taking her hand if and only if she offers it. No small talk unless she invites it. And at the end, she'll buzz and I'll come and get you. Bow from the neck and walk back towards me.
And so think about how effed up this is, but all world leaders and people who meet the Queen are supposed to submit to her in this way. Think about how effed up this is, because here it is with President Kennedy and Jacqueline Onassis.
President first.
Her Majesty.
No curtsy.
No curtsy. These are that's her former personal secretary and his assistant. And that's the bald guy that her husband was referring to. And they're upset because protocol isn't being followed by the president and his wife.
Mrs. Kennedy. Your Grace.
Your Royal Highness.
Mrs. Kennedy.
Good evening, Your Royal Majesty.
Oh, dear.
How the president of a country, a foreign sovereign land, not submit to this queen. Not to submit to their queen.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Your Grace. Did they not get the protocol sheet?
Yes.
They got the protocol sheet and everything. That was the other guy behind him, was the prime minister. He was the prime minister of England. He was upset. They're all upset that the president isn't submitting to the Queen properly.
He obviously didn't read it.
Yes, well, shall we?
They didn't read the protocol sheet. And this is where the Queen of England is really the queen of the world, because leaders, presidents and leaders from all over the world bow to her, right? And, the Pope and these other people. And so, this is not my queen. Like, if she wants to pretend she's the queen, or people want to pretend she's the queen, fine, And I guess for England, she is the queen, but I don't believe in it. Like, I don't believe in the royal blood part. Let's go through this so I have some more stuff here. So I showed this the other day. I made a video about this. Michelle Obama caught a lot of heat for touching the queen, breaking protocol. Big part of many articles. Donald and Melania Trump broke royal protocol again while greeting the Queen, Prince Charles, and Camilla at Buckingham Palace. They shook hands instead of the curtsying and bowing every time President Trump broke protocol. But here it says, when greeting the monarch the first time, the president will be expected to call her Your Majesty, but before referring to her as ma'am, pronounced the same as jam. And so majesty is royal power, the majesty of a royal household, the title given to a sovereign or sovereign's wife or widow, now majesty, majesty, her majesty the queen. And, she's not my majesty, right? You understand this? Like, she didn't earn that. It's just based in blood. Royal etiquette, do's and don'ts when meeting her majesty. And there's all these protocols and sheets you're given. And they're saying, all right, you can't do this, you can't do this. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how you refer to her. And you're supposed to bow to them. You're supposed to bow and curtsy. You're acknowledging their royalty. And I'm not acknowledging their royalty. Neither should any of our presidents, by the way, or any president or foreign leader, especially of a country that doesn't believe in royalty, or people who don't believe in royalty, and I'm one of them. I don't believe you're royal by blood. I want to talk about their blood in just a moment, some of the traditions. But this is effed up, right? That presidents are supposed to bow before the queen and call her Your Majesty. The queen, president, and protocols. All the times the queen met U.S. presidents from Trump to Truman. Greeting a member of the royal family. And then they have all this protocol. And again, sure, if you live in England, yeah, maybe you have to submit to this. You might not believe in it. You may not agree with it. But, if you don't live in England, she's not our queen. Or is she? Is she the queen of the world? Is there some sort of powerful system that we don't know about that's in the shadows? So first, I want to show you these uniforms when I get into the Freemasonic stuff here. Here's her ghoulish husband, Prince Philip. There's Charles and William, the future kings, and this dude. Things aren't going so well for. And they have all these medals and stuff because they're all a part of the military, but they're given these medals for doing basically absolutely nothing, right? Not based in merit. And they have all these bizarre uniforms. They're connected to the military on one level. The Queen is the head of her own church, the Church of England. And then we have the outfits, the crowns, right? This ridiculous crowns that they wear, all these things that they wear, all this stuff, their waves, their garb. I mean, it's just totally unnecessary and bizarre. There's all these weird outfits they exhibit. That's one of the things from the show The Crown. They're always dressing up, and they have all these, these halls, these elegant halls, opulent halls, while people in their country are starving and suffering economic hardship. All these dudes with their wigs, right? The people who wear wigs and just weird stuff. Like, why are you guys doing that? Playing dress up? You're like 70 years old. They're still getting like the hats they get into, all this stuff. The Queen or weird hats. And then they have, just these bizarre outfits too. And then they have the ones that are, a part of the state, right? There's this, these are just elegant outfits and things. Just ridiculous though. Like all the Queen hats and things with the flowers and all this kind of stuff. So the Queen is in charge of her own church. And this is, I believe, this is Westminster Abbey. And you can see they have a Freemasonic floor, a checkerboard Freemasonic floor coming between two columns, right? The pillars that are at any Freemasonic hall. So this is supposed to be a Christian church, but they're connected in many ways to Freemasonry. This is the Queen, that she's always on these checkered floors. There's always these checkered floors in Freemasonic halls. This is St. Peter's Cathedral or something like this. Again, here's the Queen when she goes to this St. Paul's Cathedral. I'm sorry, St. Paul's. And this is her on her Freemasonic floor. They're dressed up. Here he is in this weird hat, right? Prince Philip. They have all these rituals and stuff going on there. And it seems like some Freemasonic temple. And I'm going to get into this Freemasonic video in a second. Here she is here. There they are in their thrones at this hall with a Freemasonic floor underneath them. Again, another weird outfit, another ritual for them. All these rituals and things they do here. They have their, marriages and ceremonies at this Freemasonic hall, or the one Freemasonic floor, or the one at Westminster Abbey. So you remember this ghoulish-looking Sith Lord, Prince Philip, who's 99 years old, just got out of rehab, or whatever he got that made his eyes look like that. Very creepy, says bizarre things, sexual things. And Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, reaches 60 years as a member of the craft. And this is a Freemasonic publication talking about how Prince Philip, the husband of the Queen, has been a Freemason for 60 years. Also, the Queen has connections to Freemasonry. Her husband and many of her relatives are Freemasons. This is a nurse taking care of the Queen who has a Freemasonic belt on. And so both of them have connections to Freemasonry. This is Freemasonry and the British monarchy, all these people, famous. There's Harry Truman, of course. All these American presidents were Freemasons. This is Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, and he is the first cousin of the Queen, Elizabeth, so they're first cousins, but also his royal mother. Prince Marina of Greece and Denmark was first cousin of Prince Philip. So he's first cousins to both the Queen and her husband, who are related, right? This inbred stuff they have. And so Prince Philip has been a Freemasonic member for over 60 years. And there's a long connection between various royal members in Freemasonry. And then you have this guy, Prince Edward, and first cousin once removed to the Queen's husband, Prince Philip, is the Grand Poobah. He's the master in charge of the Grand Master of Freemasonry in England. So he's the head guy of this Freemasonic order. His cousin, who's the Queen, this guy's also has a royal title, right? He is the Duke of Kent, one of these dukes, another royal title, and he is, the Grand Poobah.
The world is to see the beauty in nature that the great architect gives us.
The great architect is who they worship in Freemasonry. And so these people are supposed to be Christians. They're head of their own Christian church. And yet many of the royal family, as well as many of our founding fathers, 1/3 of our founding fathers, including George Washington, were Freemasons. In 2017, it was the 300th anniversary on Halloween, the 300th anniversary of Freemasonry in England, in Britain. And they had this major blowout, like party, celebration, promotional, I don't know what it was, of 40,000 people. There's 200,000 members in England. Many of them were these royal family members.
In Britain, Kings George IV, William IV, Edward VII, Edward VIII, and George VI were all Freemasons.
See the connection here? Think about the amount of kings and presidents that were Freemasons. We'll get into the presidents in just a moment.
As were 18 dukes and princes, including the Duke of Edinburgh.
Who is the Queen's husband, right? They are pushing that out there, that ghoulish-looking guy. And his cousin is the Grand Poobah of this ceremony.
This year, His Royal Highness Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, celebrates his 50th year as Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England.
Woo! Woo! He's a Freemason, woo! This is the Queen's cousin.
May it please your majesty.
Your Majesty.
We, the representatives of over 200,000 Freemasons.
So again, 200,000 out of a small population in England, right? And this is powerful people. All these guys have influence in society.
Most respectfully express our continuing loyalty to your Majesty's throne and person in this, the 66th year of your long and distinguished reign.
He's been a duke for 66 years, again with the 66, and he's been a Freemason for what, 52, he said?
This year, His Royal Highness Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, celebrates his 50th year as Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England.
His father was Grand Master from 1939 to 1942, and in 1963, His Royal Highness was proposed into Freemasonry by the then Grand Master, the Earl of Scarborough.
So the Grand Master, who they call the Worshipful Master, is a member of the royal family. It has been for a number of years. So the royal family and Freemasonry are, bound together.
It is with the warmest fraternal greetings and pleasure that I welcome you all here today to celebrate this special anniversary.
Again, with all the thrones and the fancy uniforms and all this stuff, the costumes, I mean, it's just like they're 2 years old, right? They're like toddlers, playing dress up, or, frat boys playing dress up. So then they roll out George Washington and Ben Franklin. This is earlier in the presentation.
And these two gentlemen are founding an entire nation built on our principles.
So he's claiming America is built on Freemasonic principles. We have so much of Freemasonry woven into our historic and governmental principles, and we have a Freemasonic country.
We have great promises for our new nation. I wonder if other presidents after me will also be Freemasons.
But many will be.
Those are the Freemasonic presidents.
And Freemasonry will become embedded in the American culture. And the eye will appear on the banknotes.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they did. And so they admitted in this ceremony, they're bragging about it, that they control England, but they talk about all the other Freemasonic lodges in various countries, and that America was built on Freemasonic principles. They brag about how Washington, D.C., which it wasn't called that, it was called the Potomac or something. They're joking about that with Washington. The Washington, D.C. is a Freemasonic architecture city in its planning and everything else. And these are things that people have talked about in the so-called truth community. But what this really is about is collusion. That people who rise to the top through nepotism and through secret organizations and collusion, right? Because, they set up the system to make it look like it's a competitive system. And America certainly is a place where you can start at the bottom and rise up to the top of various fields of activity, but you don't get to the upper echelon unless you bow to the power, unless you join one of these clubs. And what they do is, and this is even on a small level, on a local level, on a city level, you have these fraternal organizations. They might just be buddies, right, friends or whatever they are, and they rise up and grab power in various fields of activity, business, politics, banking, military, police, right? Any of these things, religion, entertainment, certainly media, all these things. And they grab hold of these things and they work together in a colluded way to assure that they benefit mutually, but it's just a criminal enterprise because it's not fair. It's rigging the system. They take people of talent and power and they buy them, they manage them, they own them, they rig the system in various ways. You can see this, right? You can pretty much see it on all levels, and it's different power groups, but the blueprint is the same, that they take as much for themselves and assure that they can get away with things, criminal activity, deviant practices, deviant indulgences and appetites and things like this, that they're above the law, because they have all the power. They own all the power structure, and they're all connected. And they have a different level. That's why there's the capstone of the pyramid, this, capstone floating above the rest of humanity. One of the great things about the heartfulness meditation is that the masters of the system got rid of all the ancient Indian sort of rituals. And, in India, they touch the feet of the master or the guru and these things. It doesn't even have to be a spiritual guru. It could be a professor or a great, person in the government and all these things, Mahatmas, they're called. But in the heartfulness meditation, they got rid of all those rituals, all those bowing. In fact, the fourth master of the system, Kamlesh Patel, Daji, the current master of the system, said that he didn't want to be called master because the system exists to raise everyone up to that level, that everyone in humanity, every person on this planet is eligible to participate in the system and rise up to the highest levels of spirituality that the masters of the system have achieved. It isn't about you bowing before them and worshiping them. It's about you achieving what they've achieved. And they give the essential energy. They transmit their accomplishment back to people. You have people who've been successful, and they'll teach a course, or they'll sell you a program or a book or something on how to attain and achieve the success that they have, right? They'll sell you their success in some level or the secrets to their success. But the heartfulness system literally transmits the energy, the essence of their success, which is God's love, in an energetic form, which you can experience on a heart level and feel this, condition, this spiritual achievement, this energy. And from that, you can, move along your own spiritual journey and then reach that stage yourself. And so there isn't any of this bowing before, at least externally, that you have to submit in some external way, but you do it in a way of being grateful. Like for me, I just am eternally grateful for all the benefits and the spiritual evolution and the changes that have occurred in my internal world through the system and the masters of the system and the system itself, the organization. And there's an inner gratitude, like an inner bow, right, where you're bowing internally, like with your heart and you're, sincere about it. It's something that you're not doing just to perform some function because it's, socially demanded of you. Like for me, if somebody knows more than me in any, area, if we're trying to accomplish a goal and I'm on some sort of a team, I'm a loner and I don't like authority. But if somebody, I was, talking to my wife about this, if somebody is better at something than me, and I'll say, then you handle it, right? I have no problem allowing somebody else to shine and, being a support person or doing whatever, right? If somebody's got expertise in an area, even if I'm smarter than the person or perhaps more evolved than the person, I'm not going to go in there and, like I'm running the show, like it's stupid. Like, submitting to other people who have more knowledge or more skills, or even, an animal, like you have a bloodhound or something that has a better sense of smell or whatever, and you follow that, that animal, or you let them teach you or lead you or whatever it might be. And so if you need to, if I have to learn something and I'm watching a video, I'll, watch a YouTube video on how to do something around the homestead or whatever, I'm grateful for the knowledge. Even if the video sucks and they're not good at the presentation angle, I'm not going to criticize them and, say, well, you could have done this better. I'm grateful for whatever information that is transferred, whatever teaching or whatever. If you need something from somebody else and they provide you with that, especially if it changes you in some way and helps you develop some ability, then it's a wonderful thing, the exchange of information. And those things all have merit and they all have value. And so, bowing or at least surrendering or taking a secondary role where you're not the leader, you're not running things because someone else is better than you at something. There's lots of things my wife or my, family members are better at doing, right? And so I'm like, all right, you're in charge of this, right? Whatever it is, I'll follow your lead. And so that's what everyone should do. But it's based in merit. But I would never bow before these fake royal people, because they're not really, it's based in blood and they haven't earned anything. In fact, you look at it, who are the people that are bowing before them? Is other criminals, right? It's a criminal enterprise. Like, they're the head criminals in charge. They've developed this system. Maybe they've learned it for somebody else, whatever, but they're the ones who sort of mastered this colonialistic scamming system, the economic system, all these things. And they got people, behind the scenes and running it from the shadows. But people go and bow before the crown as a symbol of criminals, like these robber baron kings and thugs and things. And you have presidents and other politicians and religious leaders, and people go bow before the Pope and all these things because it's criminals, wannabe criminals bowing before more successful criminals. But they're not good at, other things. They're not good at, like things that are adding to society. They don't really have any authority, and they're not better than people. And this is what they're, that's their whole premise, is that they're better than you, based in their blood, based in their position. And that's not what makes somebody of value. They're usurping the position of God. There's in reality, there's the essence of God, and then we're all just playing a part in, we're all just playing a part in the creation. And there shouldn't be any of this, arrogance and things like this, and making you bow down before them in some, submissive way, because they're deep down worth nothing, right? They have nothing to offer. And so they've got these inflated egos based in power they've extracted through ill-gotten gains, right? And it's all across the board, from JoJo to the Queen. Only spirituality will save this world, you criminals. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting for the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.